I, 41-year-old female, married my husband, 45-year-old male, last November. We only finally moved in together a few months before the wedding. We had been dating for 3 years. On paper, I earn more than he does, but I end up bringing home about the same as he does because I have health, vision, dental, long and short-term disability, life insurance, and retirement taken out of my check. He doesn't. We have really been butting heads over money lately. I still have to give him half the rent, but he literally pays for nothing else. I pay all the utilities, phone bill, groceries, cleaning supplies, and just about everything else. The electric bill is through the roof right now because of the heat wave. The issue is that I'm often out of money by the time I pay everything, and I'm left with absolutely nothing some weeks. He goes suborbital and tells me that I need to save my money, and is reluctant to even peel off $5 for soap. Yet he is constantly finding a new hobby to hyper-focus on. Lately, it's been his electric bicycle. Every week there are packages with new parts for it. It's all he talks about. Back when I got my Christmas bonus, it was his remote control car, which he doesn't even look at now, and I had to pay a huge amount of money for parts and sensors, etc. When tax time came around and he found out how much my tax refund was going to be, he pestered me for weeks over a wildly expensive handgun. As he talked about it every waking moment, literally wouldn't leave me alone. So I bought it because he insisted it was the one thing he wanted. He then went and spent his little bit of pocket money buying ammo, and a holster ... It sits in a drawer. It's been fired exactly once. I like guns as much as the next person, but we have other guns. I don't understand why he had to have an $1,100 gun if he wouldn't even go to the range with it. Which leads us back to the electric bicycle and the present. I work for a small but very rapidly growing company. I'm not earning a ton right now, but I got on with this company at exactly the right time. Generous paid time off, pretty much unlimited voluntary overtime, constant recognition for hard work, an amazing office, loads of performance incentives, a lot of focus on employee wellness and work-life balance. At least once per month, we get to go home early on Friday with pay and hybrid workspace options. They give away free paid time off like it's candy, always handing out bonuses even if they are just $100. We've been going through this huge restructuring because we are growing so quickly. I'm pretty good at what I do, so I'm often done with my work early and volunteered to pick up work from other departments because ... frankly ... we are all collectively drowning in work. I had my annual review yesterday, and I was informed that I'm getting a bonus. Nothing crazy, but definitely substantial. I decided not to tell my husband. We have separate bank accounts. Bills are piling up, but I decided I'm going to put that money into my savings account to use as my personal pocket money. I just know that the second I mention it, he's going to corner me and pester me with photos of bike parts and God knows what else nonstop. I told my aunts and a couple of trusted close friends about it. They all say it's amazing, but I should use the money to get caught up on bills. And what if there is an emergency? He knows I use this app thing that pays you for playing mindless drivel games. I play them while I sit on hold or in the evenings while I'm decompressing. Obviously, it doesn't pay retirement money, but I do get a little pocket money from it. So I plan to just tell him that it's my game money if he happens to notice I have a little extra money. I feel guilty, but I know that my life would be a living nightmare until I conceded. Moving out isn't an option right now. I live in a low cost of living area, but rent had become so inflated the past 2 years that there is absolutely no way I can afford to get an apartment by myself. Am I the jerk? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Why is only rent $5,050 and the rest falls to you? That is total bull. He should be paying 50% for everything. Keep your bonuses. I would limit how much you tell him regarding finances, as it seems like he is just along for the ride. Totally not fair for you. Keep your secrets, enjoy your money, and spend it on stuff you enjoy, not for him. Nothing for him. Comment 2. Not the idiot. But you've made a massive mistake. The only way a secret stays secret is if only the one person knows. Someone is going to tell him, and then this is going to be worse for you. You have every right to that money. You put in the work for it. Tell him he can sell his other toys that he isn't using to fund his newest toy. Now, for the update. Thanks for reading my last post. So, a lot has happened in the past month, and things have really escalated between my husband and me. It all started when I got my bonus from work. I decided to keep it a secret and put it into my savings account just like I planned. I thought I could use it for emergencies or maybe even treat myself to something small. But my husband noticed that I seemed less stressed about money and started asking questions. I stuck to my story about the game app money, but he wasn't buying it. He kept pressing me, and it was getting harder to keep up the lie. One evening, he came home with another package for his electric bike. I couldn't hold it in any longer and snapped at him about how much money he was wasting. He got defensive and accused me of hiding money from him. I denied it, but he didn't believe me. We had a huge fight, and he stormed out of the house. The next day, he came back and demanded to see my bank statements. I refused, which only made him angrier. He accused me of being dishonest and said that if I didn't show him the statements, he would leave. I was stuck in a tough situation. I didn't want to lose him, but I also didn't want to give in to his demands. I finally caved and showed him the statements. He saw the bonus deposit and went ballistic. He accused me of lying and hiding money from him. I tried to explain that I was saving it for emergencies, but he wouldn't listen. He said that if I didn't give him half of the bonus, he would leave me. I was devastated. I didn't want to lose him, but I also didn't want to give in to his unreasonable demands. I felt trapped. I ended up giving him half of the bonus, hoping it would calm him down, but it didn't. He took the money and spent it on more bike parts and other hobbies. I was left with nothing, and the bills kept piling up. I felt like I was drowning. A few days later, I got a call from my boss. She told me that the company was going through another restructuring and that my position was being eliminated. I was shocked and devastated. I had put so much into that job, and now it was gone. I didn't know how I was going to pay the bills or keep up with everything. I told my husband about losing my job, hoping he would be supportive, but instead he blamed me for not saving enough money and for spending too much. He said that if I had given him the bonus money earlier, he could have invested it and made more money. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I felt so alone and betrayed. With no job and no savings, I had to rely on my husband even more. But he continued to spend money on his hobbies and refused to help with the bills. I was constantly stressed and anxious, not knowing how I was going to make ends meet. One night, I was going through some old papers and found a letter from my husband. It was from before we got married, and it was full of promises about how he would always take care of me and support me. Reading it made me realize how much things had changed. I felt like I didn't even know him anymore. I started thinking about our relationship and how we got to this point. I remembered how he used to be so caring and attentive when we first started dating. But over time, he became more focused on his hobbies and less interested in our relationship. I realized that I had been ignoring the red flags because I didn't want to face the truth. I decided to confront him about the letter and how I felt. I told him that I missed the person he used to be and that I felt like he didn't care about me anymore. He got defensive and said that I was being dramatic. He accused me of trying to manipulate him and said that if I wasn't happy, I should leave. I was heartbroken. I didn't want to leave, but I also couldn't keep living like this. I decided to stay with a friend for a few days to clear my head and figure out what to do next. While I was there, I realized that I needed to take control of my life and stop relying on my husband. I started looking for a new job and found a few promising leads. I also started talking to a lawyer about my options. I knew that leaving my husband would be difficult, but I couldn't keep living in this toxic environment. When I went back home, I told my husband that I was leaving. He was shocked and tried to convince me to stay, but I had made up my mind. I packed my things and moved in with my friend temporarily. It's been a tough month, but I'm starting to feel more hopeful about the future. I'm still looking for a job and trying to get back on my feet, but I know that I made the right decision. I deserve to be with someone who respects and supports me, and I'm not going to settle for anything less. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for telling my sister-in-law to back off about having a third child? For listing lack of family support as one of the many reasons that I wasn't open to having a third baby? My husband and I had our son knowing that we wouldn't receive much or any family support. My father-in-law is ill, so that takes up my mother-in-law's energy, and his siblings are child-free and not really interested in kids. My family lives far away, and I never expected or received any help with babysitting, etc., except on the rare occasions that my parents come out to visit and give us a date night. Yes, it would be amazing if my husband's family was more involved. but I've never thought anyone owed us any babysitting, and we made the choice to have kids with our eyes wide open. My husband's sister has offered to take our son a couple of times to give us a break, but ultimately flaked each time. At this point, I'm not really sure that I'd be comfortable leaving my son with her anyway, so it's not something I've pursued. I'm currently pregnant with our second son, and we told the in-laws we were having another boy during a family gathering. Everyone congratulated us but kept asking if we were disappointed that we weren't having a girl. I repeatedly said no. I loved my son and was happy to have another boy, but they wouldn't drop the subject, and his sister kept hounding me about when we would be trying for the third so we could give the family a girl. I told her there wouldn't be a third since we were planning to stop at 2 kids, but she kept pursuing the topic 3 is better than 2, and you don't know what you'd be missing out on not having a daughter. I found this annoying because 1, my sister-in-law has no kids and is child-free by choice, and 2, nobody in the family pays much attention to the child we already have, so I'm not sure why they are so concerned about it either way. Sister-in-law kept hounding me, and I told her that it would be difficult for us to afford a 3rd kid with daycare costs, limited family support, a small home, 2 working parents, etc. I didn't emphasize the family piece, but it was one of several reasons that I rattled off to explain our decision. She eventually dropped it, but texted me later that night to say that she felt targeted, since I knew that she wanted to babysit all those times, but something always came up. I said that was fine. My decision about the size of our family had nothing to do with her, and I never expected her to babysit, so I wasn't upset about it. Apparently, that response pissed her off even more, because now she's telling my mother-in-law and husband that I don't think she's a good aunt, and that's not a good reason to deprive the family of a girl. My husband says not to worry about it, and that's just how she is. But I probably shouldn't have mentioned family support if I didn't want to fight about it. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. I think your answer was truthful and polite. I've found that for me, not giving reasons shuts down the possibility of debate. We're happy with our 2 boys, thanks. If she continues to press, she is the one who looks pushy and impolite. Comment 2, not the idiot. If your sister-in-law so desperately wants a girl in the family, then she has to give up her child-free life and have a girl. I mean, chances are 50-50ths that this works out, and if not, she can always keep on trying. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me through all this. So after that whole incident with my sister-in-law, things got even more complicated. The next day, my husband and I were having breakfast when he got a call from his mom. She was upset and said that my sister-in-law had been crying all night, feeling like she was being blamed for our decision not to have a 3rd child. My husband tried to calm her down, but it was clear that the issue wasn't going away anytime soon. Later that day, my sister-in-law showed up at our house unannounced. She was visibly upset and demanded to talk. I invited her in, and we sat down in the living room. She started by saying that she felt like I didn't trust her with our kids, and that it hurt her feelings. I tried to explain that it wasn't about trust, but about our own limitations and decisions as a family. She wasn't having it and kept insisting that she could help more if we just gave her a chance. In the middle of this heated conversation, my son came running into the room, excited to show me a drawing he had made. My sister-in-law barely acknowledged him, which only reinforced my feelings about her lack of genuine interest in our kids. I gently reminded her that actions speak louder than words, and if she really wanted to be involved, she needed to show it through her actions, not just her words. The next day, my husband and I decided to take our son to the park to get some fresh air and clear our heads. While we were there, we ran into one of our neighbors, who mentioned that she had seen my sister-in-law at the local daycare center. This was surprising because she had never mentioned anything about wanting to work with kids, or even being interested in childcare. It made me wonder if she was trying to prove a point, or if there was something else going on that we didn't know about. When we got home, I decided to call my sister-in-law and ask her about it. She admitted that she had been looking into volunteering at the daycare to gain some experience with kids. She said she wanted to show us that she was serious about being a part of our children's lives. While I appreciated the effort, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her sudden interest in childcare. That evening, my husband and I had a long talk about everything that had been happening. He confessed that he had been feeling a lot of pressure from his family to have a 3rd child, especially a girl. He admitted that he had been considering it, despite our earlier decision to stop at 2 kids. This revelation hit me hard because I thought we were on the same page. It made me question whether he was truly happy with our family as it was, or if he was just trying to please his family. The following day, my sister-in-law called me again, this time sounding more composed. She apologized for her earlier outburst and said she wanted to make things right. She offered to take our son for a few hours so my husband and I could have some time to ourselves. Reluctantly, I agreed, hoping that this would be a step towards mending our relationship. When she came to pick up our son, she seemed genuinely excited and prepared. She had brought along some toys and snacks, and our son seemed happy to go with her. My husband and I took the opportunity to have a much-needed date night. We went out for dinner and talked about everything that had been happening. It felt good to reconnect and remind ourselves why we made the decisions we did. However, when we got home, things took an unexpected turn. My sister-in-law had brought our son back, but he was unusually quiet and clingy. When I asked him how his time with his aunt was, he just shrugged and said it was okay. This was out of character for him, as he usually loved spending time with family. I couldn't shake the feeling that something had happened, but I didn't want to push him too hard. The next day, I decided to talk to my sister-in-law about it. She seemed defensive and insisted that everything had gone fine. But as we talked, I noticed that she kept avoiding eye contact and seemed nervous. It made me wonder if she was hiding something. I decided to let it go for the moment, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Over the next few days, I noticed a change in my son's behavior. He seemed more withdrawn and less enthusiastic about things he usually enjoyed. I decided to talk to him and see if he would open up about what happened. After some gentle coaxing, he finally admitted that his aunt had spent most of the time on her phone and barely interacted with him. He said he felt ignored and didn't want to go with her again. This revelation was a turning point for me. It made me realize that my initial instincts were right, and that my sister-in-law's sudden interest in childcare was more about proving a point than genuinely wanting to be involved in our children's lives. I decided to confront her about it and let her know how her actions had affected our son. When I called her, she was defensive at first, but eventually admitted that she had been trying to prove that she could handle kids. She apologized and said she didn't realize how much her actions had hurt our son. While I appreciated her honesty, it was clear that we needed to set some boundaries moving forward. In the end, my husband and I decided to focus on our own family and not let outside pressures influence our decisions. We agreed to communicate more openly and support each other in our choices. As for my sister-in-law, we decided to give her some space and let her prove her commitment to our family through her actions, not just her words. Thanks for reading. Thanks for... Am I the idiot for kicking my lying ex-fiancé out and demanding the ring back? My ex-fiancé broke up with me because she felt that we barely saw each other, which is a lie. I work in a family restaurant, and by the time my fiancé gets off work, I wouldn't make it home until 5 hours after her, depending on the day. She's been wanting me to find a new job because she felt that it wasn't fair she worked longer hours than I did, and that since I worked in the evenings, she didn't feel like we had enough time together. I always told her that I had no desire to quit, and that I think it'll be beneficial for us if she were to work with me because we'd get more time off and we'd get to spend it together. She told me that she didn't feel comfortable working for my parents, and I accepted that. She'd still complain from time to time, but I never thought she'd break up with me for it. Well, she did, and she said my work schedule was the reason. This upset me deeply because I didn't understand. I don't work Sundays or Mondays, and I get to spend time with her on Tuesday mornings and Saturday mornings before I go to work. I thought we were past it, but I was wrong. When she broke up with me, I was hurt. She was apologizing, but told me that with our work schedules, she didn't see how we could get married if I wasn't going to try and find a job that was better for all of us. She said it would be better if we just stayed friends. I told her that she knew before we got engaged what my schedule was, and she shouldn't have accepted it in the first place. She told me that she accepted it because she thought that over time I would try and find a different job. After our breakup, I avoided her after that because I didn't really want to see her anymore, but then I felt that I shouldn't have to be the one uncomfortable in my own home. It's not big enough to avoid her completely, and I felt that she needed to move out. I told her that I felt that she needed to go, and since we weren't getting married anymore, there was no point in us living together. She asked me if I was serious, and I told her that I was. I asked for the ring back as well. She got upset by this because she said that I gave it to her and I shouldn't ask for it back since it meant something to her. I told her that I bought it so we could get married, but since we weren't getting married, I wanted it back. She told me that I could easily afford to get a new one and that I was greedy. She said that trying to kick her out and ask for her ring back after we've been together for so long was insensitive, and I should be ashamed of myself. I didn't budge, and she ultimately gave me the ring back and moved out 9 days ago. But she told me that if I truly loved her, I wouldn't have asked for the ring back and would have allowed her to continue living with me. She said that she had a legitimate reason to call off our engagement and that she shouldn't be made homeless because of it. She said that it was her home too, since she lived there with me, and she shouldn't have to live with her parents. I don't fault her for calling off our engagement. I just wish she would have told me sooner. What I have a problem with is the fact she thinks she still has to live with me and gets to keep the ring that I bought. To add, I work Tuesday/Wednesday/Thursday, 4:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. Friday, 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. Saturday, 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. The restaurant is only open during the evenings. She works 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. She's off on Tuesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. I'd also like to add that she's not a bad person. We were very good friends before we started dating, and this has definitely ruined our friendship. But I still think she's a good person who was just hurt by the situation. I didn't have to force her out. She moved out on her own. I received 2 messages about her, and they weren't kind. I'm not sure what other people think, but I'm just trying to clear some things up because I don't want other people to assume the worst. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Engagement rings are given in expectation of marriage. No marriage, no ring. And she can't really expect that breaking up with you but still living together was ever going to work. She just wanted you to be the one to make her leave, so she can justify to herself, and probably family and friends, what a meanie you are. Not the idiot. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Engagement rings are a promise of marriage. When she ended the engagement, you are entitled to the ring back. Also, if it is your place, how long did she honestly expect you to put up with seeing her and her stuff? Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my last post. So, after she moved out, things got even more complicated. I thought that would be the end of it. But I was wrong. A few days after she left, I got a call from her mom. She was furious, saying that I had no right to kick her daughter out and demand the ring back. She accused me of being heartless and selfish. I tried to explain my side, but she wouldn't listen. She hung up on me, and I felt even more isolated. Then I started noticing that some of our mutual friends were acting weird around me. They were distant and cold, and I couldn't figure out why. I finally confronted one of them, and they told me that my ex had been telling people that I was hurtful and controlling. I was shocked and hurt. I couldn't believe she would say something like that about me. I had never laid a hand on her or tried to control her in any way. I decided to confront her about it. I called her and asked if we could meet up to talk. She agreed, and we met at a coffee shop. I asked her why she was spreading lies about me, and she denied it at first. But then she broke down and admitted that she was just hurt and angry and didn't know how to deal with it. She said she didn't mean for things to get so out of hand, and she apologized. I told her that I understood she was hurt, but that didn't give her the right to ruin my reputation. I asked her to tell our friends the truth, and she agreed. She promised to make things right, but I could tell she was still upset. I felt bad for her, but I also knew I had to protect myself. A few days later, I got a call from my boss at the restaurant. He told me that my ex had come by and caused a scene, accusing me of all sorts of things in front of the customers. He said that he couldn't have that kind of drama at the restaurant and that I needed to sort things out. I was furious. I couldn't believe she would go that far. I decided to take a few days off work to try and figure things out. I needed to clear my head and come up with a plan. I spent a lot of time thinking about our relationship and where things went wrong. I realized that we had both made mistakes, but I also knew that I couldn't let her continue to ruin my life. I decided to talk to a lawyer to see what my options were. I explained the situation, and he advised me to get a restraining order against her. He said that it would protect me and my job, and it would also send a clear message that her behavior was unacceptable. I was hesitant at first, but I knew it was the right thing to do. I filed for the restraining order, and it was granted. I felt a sense of relief, but I also felt sad that it had come to this. I never wanted things to get so ugly between us. I just wanted to move on with my life and find some peace. In the meantime, I started to notice some changes in myself. I was more cautious and guarded around people. I didn't trust as easily, and I found it hard to open up. I realized that the whole situation had taken a toll on me, and I needed to take care of myself. I started going to therapy to work through my feelings. It was tough at first, but it helped me gain some perspective. I learned that it was okay to feel hurt and angry, but I also needed to let go and move on. I couldn't let my past define me. As I started to heal, I also began to think about my future. I realized that I needed to make some changes in my life. I loved working at the restaurant, but I also knew that I needed to find a better balance between work and my personal life. I decided to talk to my parents about adjusting my schedule so that I could have more time for myself and my relationships. They were supportive and agreed to let me work fewer hours. It was a big relief, and I felt like I was finally taking control of my life. I also started to reconnect with my friends and rebuild those relationships. It wasn't easy, but I knew it was important. Looking back, I realized that I had learned a lot from the whole experience. I learned that it's important to communicate and be honest in a relationship. I also learned that it's okay to stand up for yourself and set boundaries. Most importantly, I learned that it's okay to let go and move on. Thanks for reading. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.